Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're gonna fly another add-on plane. This one's a little less realistic, but a lot more fun. And fam, you already know because you clicked on the title, or I sent this to you to make you watch. It's gonna be the Concorde. This one's from DC Designs. This absolute legend of an airplane was the fastest, highest flying, and overall one of the most badass planes that you'll never get to fly on. It's boring time. A British and French collaboration, the Concorde started doing commercial flights all the way back in 1976. This beast was iconic for being the first supersonic passenger jet thanks to its streamlined design and its 4 Rolls-Royce turbojet engines. And fam, while your standard passenger jet is going to go around 600 miles an hour, this thing can go Mach 2.01. That's 1,350 miles an hour at cruising altitude. That's pretty fast. More than twice the speed of sound on a passenger jet. It's even got afterburners. I mean, look at the pooper on this. Oh, it's even got a droopable snoot. It flew almost twice as high too, close to 60,000 feet. The U-2 spy plane was only 10,000 feet above that. This thing can go from London to New York, across the ocean in 3 hours. Think about that. London is 5 hours ahead of New York. That means if you took off at 10 a.m. in London, you'd land in New York at 8 a.m. Absolute bananas. Sadly though, the Concorde did retire in 2003. One of the big reasons was hesitation brought on by the Air France Flight 4590 disaster. In July of 2000, the Air France Concorde, carrying 9 crew and 96 passengers, was speeding down the runway at de Gaulle, beginning its journey to New York. Before the plane took off, however, one of the tires hit a piece of metal that had fallen off from the previous plane to take off, causing the tire to shred, and bits of the tire launched into one of the engine's fuel tanks, causing a massive fire. And the plane did get airborne, but very shortly crashed into the ground near a hotel, killing everybody on board. It wasn't just the bad crash that spelled the end for the Concorde. It was an expensive plane to operate and maintain. It chugged fuel in a way that would make a Hummer with a supercharger blush. And the ticket price? Something like $13,000 in today's dollar reduce. But fam, we don't have to worry about any of that because we're doing this in the flight sim. Boring time over, let's get to the sim. Alright guys, so I moved myself to a different side of the screen so you can see what's going on the plane a little bit better than last time. So we don't need to do sim brief flight plans. You do for the 737. Well, you don't need to. But what I'm about to do in here would not work with the PMDG 737. It will with the A320, but for a lot of the vanilla aircraft and other add-on aircraft for Flight Simulator, you can just do all your flight planning up here. We're going to fly from Cleveland to San Diego, just German for a whale. So you can see it defaults to just direct. So we're going to select IFR, High Altitude Airways. That makes it a little bit more realistic, even though the Concorde cannot do airways. So we're going to take off from runway 24 left, and we do want the GT Lake 4 departure, but we're going to start at the gate. See, you do not need to use SimBrief or Navigraph. You can do all of this. It's just, those are just creature comforts. We're going to choose the GT Lake 24 left departure. Arrivals. We want localizer 27. So yeah, basically does the same thing as SimBrief, with the added benefit, again, with a lot of the vanilla built-in aircraft and most of the add-ons, it'll automatically have this flight plan loaded for us. So you don't have to go through all the crazy steps of programming in a CDU. I'm just a masochist and I like doing that. Real as it gets, right? Let's fly the Concorde. Ooh, it is a mess. This is going to be fun, actually. All right, guys, so here we are in Cleveland at the gate in our DC Designs Concorde. This whole startup procedure is going to go a lot faster than the other ones because it's a simplified add-on. We're not really so much going for accuracy here. One of the big things that's inaccurate about this is this CDU setup here. It didn't have that. It had a couple screens like this, and you had to input the waypoints as coordinates. And I think it could only hold up to 7 at a time, so as you were flying you had to input your next waypoints. So this thing was a complicated machine to fly, but not for us. This is the engineer's seat, and he has to deal with all this to manage the engines for the entire flight. So I mean, it by all means took 3 people to operate this thing. Alright, so let's turn on our batteries, and then our EPU needs to come on. Alright, so that's really all we need to do. Again, the added benefit of doing the flight plan on that screen is that it's already in here. Let's push back, and let's droop our snoot one notch. Alright, so pushing back, we can actually start our engines now. I think the actual procedure was you would do outboard engines first and then the inboard, but we're just going to do all four at once as we go through a jetway. And similar to all the other planes, we wait for this to climb a bit before we introduce the fuel, turn on all of our fuel pumps. So how this worked is you would take off full afterburner, turn off your afterburners, climb to 27,000 feet, and at that point you transition to supersonic speed and climb the rest of the way up to 60,000 feet. The other way you got away with this was you're doing it over the ocean where you're not going to piss anybody off, but even at 60,000 feet, this thing is going to make a sonic boom that you're going to definitely hear on the ground. We're going to set IIS acquire of 250, click INS, switch this to INS, Flight Director 1 and Flight Director 2 turn on. Those guys, they were actual little physical things on this thing. And let's get to the runway. Alright guys, so here we are on the runway. We're actually taking off on the wrong runway because we're not taking off into the wind. Let's do a little run up while we're holding the brakes here. Yeah, it looks good enough for me. Punch it. Turn on our afterburners, or reheat. And oops. Here we go. This plane has a very high rotate speed of 220 knots, partly because it doesn't have flaps. Which means when you land, you have to use a very high angle of attack to slow yourself down, using, the whole plane's body. Which is also why the snoot droops, so you can see what you're doing when you get close to the ground. Alright, so there's 160, 180. We're gonna use all the runway for this. It's gonna be pretty bad actually. Get a little bit longer and rotate. Positive rate, gear up. Turn on our autopilot. Alright, we are airborne. That so and let's undroop our snoot. Looking good. So once we get to 27,000 feet, we're going to make our supersonic transition. Yeah, see, it switched to hold. Okay, so let's go supersonic, shall we? Let's crank this up to 60,000 feet. Throttle up. Alright, looking good there. Let's hit altiquire one more time. Max climb one more time. And let's get these bad boys back on again. And now we climb all the way up to 60,000 feet. Alright everybody, we are at our cruise altitude of 60,000 feet. We are going Mach 1.99 at the moment. Alright, so now it's time to make like a Concorde passenger, because you're paying $13,000 a ticket, you're gonna drink champagne. So, pinky out, let's do some cool time lapse. Also, I'm just trolling, that's totally Red Bull. Alright, fam. I think it's time to descend because we're getting close. We're going to try and do an auto land, but there's a very solid possibility I screw it up and have to do it manually. That's not a big deal. I am a little concerned that we should have started descending earlier. Okay, yeah, we're like way early on all of this, but we'll skip ahead. That's a mountain. It's fine. It's fine. I cannot stress how wildly inaccurate this is. I am breaking all the rules, doing things way too early, but we're having fun, right? Let's drop our gear down, and let's go full nose down. Yeah, no flaps, very high angle of attack landing, but I think we'll be okay. And then pretty much as soon as we straighten out, I'm switching over to rad now. And auto land. It's not doing it. Or is it? Yep, no, we're not doing it, so we're doing this manual. That's okay, though. I can handle this. We're gonna have to be Johnny on the spot with those reversers. Again, we're doing this in one shot, baby. Come on. Standing brakes. Not centered. And sure, we use the full runway, but you know. Excuse me, sir. Yeah. All right. Taxi lights off. Fuel off. And ta-da! So that was 2 hours and 7 minutes. A lot of that was because I descended too early. Like, way too early. But don't worry, I've cut that out of the video by this point. Yeah. So that was the Concorde. Really fast, really fun plane. Thanks so much for watching if you did, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.